So I'm here to celebrate the launch of the Oxford Frame Loom. I haven't been on posting regularly on YouTube with long videos, but I've been doing shorts recently just to kind of see, to share some of the sort of content that I've been working on over the years. I have a lot more longer form videos to share. A lot of them have been in the process of being edited for some time, but I thought I would start by trying to do a live, which is a new thing for me. And actually I much prefer to kind of do the less edited version of any video. I much prefer to just speak live and get started. So today I'm going to be talking to you about the Oxford Frame Loom. So I do talk about that a lot on my channel. Certainly in all the weaving videos, I'm weaving on the Oxford Frame Loom to create any of the projects and teach you any of the skills that I'm teaching, except that the Oxford Frame Loom is the only one of its kind in the market. So it makes it more important for me to share, one, what the loom is about and why I've designed it. Two, all the features, or as many as I can, just in a short space of time, so that you know more about the loom and why I've designed it. And then of course, to give you some examples of projects you can weave on it, so you sort of start to connect the different things that I've been teaching you with the outcomes that you can achieve. Because I like to talk often when I'm teaching about the why. I'll always give you far more information about why you're doing something rather than just giving you the short version of it. I tend to be wordy. Yes, that is difficult for me to kind of keep. Sort of brevity is not my strong point. But I also think that when I'm teaching, if you don't understand why I'm doing something, that if you go to replicate the technique that I'm showing you, or follow along with me, and I don't explain why I'm doing it, you won't be able to do it effectively when you are in a different situation. Now, it's much easier to follow anything that you're taught. Yes, it's much easier to follow anything that you're taught when you're following a pattern. And you are literally doing 4 rows of plain weave, and then 2 rows of sumac, and then 8 rows of twill, and then you're doing rya knots on top of that. That's very easy to understand. But after that, when you've come away from it and you start working out these techniques and doing things of your own accord, often if you don't have the why, you won't be able to sort of answer questions or anticipate how you solve certain problems that come up while you're weaving. So that's why my work, my videos are always a little bit longer than I intend, but here I want to talk about the Oxford Frame Loom. And so the Oxford Frame Loom is a new loom for the market. It's been out for a few years now, all of which those are my designs, but this is the latest version, and it has most of the features that are really exciting. It has very fine notches. So if I was to show you my very first loom design, that one is here. You can see that if I bring that up closer, that the notches are closer together. And what that means is that now they're designed so that you can take your work, if you're designing on your frame loom, you can take it onto a table and floor loom, and you'll already have the sample created. So the other thing that's great about it is that it has really deep channels at the top. So if you can see that there, the channels are really good for holding different types of warps. And that is another key point. If I were comparing my loom to other frame looms on the market, can you see how generous the spacing is? Now I've actually got some really fine yarn set up, but it can also fit really, really thick and chunky. So if you look at the top, you can just see the green over at the top, and there are very fine yarns. But if you had a chunkier yarn, I'm trying to think about something here to hand. There we go. If you wanted, you could set up a warp with something as chunky as this, because it will fit inside those notches. So that's a really important feature about this loom, which is very different than a lot of other looms, is that it doesn't have channels to deep channels to allow you to actually use and experiment with different fibers in the warp. Most frame looms were designed for tapestry weaving, where you want a finer, you want a wider set. The warp fineness it could be cotton, linen, or some combination of it, and you want to cover it. It's basically not to be seen, so it's generally cream, and it's not essential for you to know to be able to have a wide set. But of course, I trained as a hand weaver, and hand weaving, you want to emphasize sometimes the warp or sometimes more the weft, but you have the choice, and that's part of designing, and this loom enables you to do that because these channels are really wide. The other thing is that it's double-sided. So this is the only loom to have a double-sided heddle bar. That helps you for multiple reasons, but one of which is actually weaving at a finer set. So a set is where you have, in an inch measure, how many warp ends can you fit in there. The smaller the number, so if it's 2 or 4, that's really widely set, and that's generally for tapestry type products. If you set it up finer, anything up to 8 or 16, 16 is a nice hand woven cloth. That really is only achieved on a table loom. This loom can set up to 16 ends per inch, and the warp that I currently have, if you can just see, there are 2 faces to it. There's 8 warps set up on the front, 8 on the back. That's really, really fine, and that's pretty much the finest on the market, and that's because I'm a hand weaver. I want to sample on this loom, I want to travel with it, I want to then come back with a finished product and then go weave it on my table or floor looms. So that was one of the unique features that nobody else has. You also have this extra heddle bar, and so different to a rotating heddle bar, which will either help you add sort of more ends per inch, or help you to rotate it and raise some warps in sort of the odd ones, and then rotate it again, and then you get all the evens. Now that helps you for plain weave. But my loom, I want you to experiment. If you set up your warp, you already have, and you have 2 faces of it, you already have that gap, which encourages you to have a really easy go of passing your yarn between the 2. So the first row you may have to pick out. The second row of plain weave, you just simply pass it between the gap, because the gap already exists. No rotating anything, you don't have to faff with that. It's already like set up as part of the loom. You also have this second heddle bar so that you can add another warp. So if you can just see the cream warp here is actually what we call an extra warp, and this is a weaving technique that you can use on a frame loom, but generally only if you're and especially if you're only working with different types of warp. So for example, the quality of this one is different and has a different sort of stretch factor than this one here. And if you were to put this warp thread, the thicker one, on the same element, when you go to change the tension to adjust it, you then have a problem, because often yarns don't adjust at the same tension, which is the same reason you have 2 back beams on a table loom. So a table loom has this feature. I've included it as part of my one of the great features of the Oxford Frame Loom, and realized that actually if you want to experiment a bit more and you want to start playing with color or different textures, this new setup with the double-sided extra heddle bar will give you that flexibility and that option. Now you can also see that there's channels. We have really, really deep channels for this. That means you can adjust your warp height so you don't waste yarn. If you're only wanting to do a small sample at the bottom, you can adjust it right down to the bottom. It has openings here at the bottom for the stand, so that's new to the medium-sized loom, where you can actually purchase a stand. Now I don't include it as standard because, to be honest, most people don't necessarily need a stand for this small size. Most people weave with it on the table or on their lap or leaning against something. So it is available to purchase now, and that's a new feature for this version. You also get a set of weaving tools, and of course my weaving tools are really very specific tools. They have lots of different features to use for both tapestry and for hand weaving. And the other thing that is interesting is that not only with the medium loom, you've also got the extra large loom, and this one is a square version. And it is 56 centimeters by 56 centimeters, which enables you to weave really big projects. So on that note, let me show you some projects that you can weave with this. Starting with the big loom, if you're going for more tapestry style, thick, densely warp covering sort of projects, that is a cushion. That is also the cushion I weave on my online Domestica course, and I teach you how to weave that on the Oxford Frame Loom. So that's something that is quite a popular one. This was another version of it, slightly smaller, but again, this time we've woven the front, and the back is just a linen backing. So you can weave cushions on this project. You can weave what we call double-sided projects. That is a really unique thing. On the frame loom, when you set up a warp, you can weave the front face. For example, that Christmas stocking, you weave one Christmas stocking on the front, and then if you turn it around, you can actually set up and make sure that you're weaving the right sort of density as you are the front one. So if you know you've woven 12 rows at the front, 12 rows front and back, you can make sure that everything ends up being the mirror image and the right scale. Because we all know, as people working in handcrafted, you know, textiles, etc., you basically are human, and sometimes you condense things down too tight, sometimes more loose. And so you can weave double-sided projects like something like a Christmas stocking. That was woven on the Oxford Frame Loom. We're getting to things that are a little bit smaller now. I'm talking about this one here. This is actually a rug sample, and you can see the back. It's super, super textured, and it's got a really, really dense sort of feel to it. And you only see the weft yarn, meaning wider set, you can achieve more tapestry-like qualities. So that's a popular one. You could actually weave that as a runner. So it's a sample for a carpet or a rug, which I'm intending to weave on my, my floor loom. However, the sampling I'm going to try on the Oxford Frame Loom, because one of the features you can do with the big or the smaller loom is that you can actually remove the top heddle bar, clamp down one end to the side of the table, and then the other end, the other heddle bar to the other side. What that does is it enables you to then set up a long warp where you set up the warp just as you would a normal frame loom, and then you wind it on and clamp it back down into position wherever it fits. So that's one of the features here of this sliding, these long sort of channels, is that the heddle bar can be adjusted. When you're trying to find that perfect spot, it never will land in a perfect square. You'll never, it just doesn't happen that way. So then you can slide it into position and lock it in, and then you have your long warp wound onto the top. And I'll be showing some demos on how to do that in the future. So like a rug, you could do a long runner, something you can achieve on the Oxford Frame Loom. I also want to talk about smaller projects like little coasters. Again, this is covering the warp. This is a little project that you could easily weave on the Oxford Frame Loom. And another exciting one is actually three-dimensional projects. So do you want to weave baskets? Do you want to try out things that end up in circular form right off the loom? This is the loom, front and back, different techniques, creating the basket. It'll be super exciting to be able to share how you can actually weave three-dimensional projects. That is, again, something unique to us without having to weave the front face, take it off the loom, and then weave the back face. You can actually do elements integrated at the same time, saving you time, making it easier just to create a more seamless kind of design and finish. So that cool three-dimensional little pouch was, or basket, was woven on the Oxford Frame Loom. And then I'm going to go into something that's a lot finer. So here we've got something that's set up at 16 ends per inch. Now this is a really fine cotton yarn that's been set up similarly to what I have set here. This is a wool warp, and that enables you to then weave some really fine projects. So things like jewelry, you know, people don't talk often about the number of the variety of projects and products you can actually create with weaving. And actually woven jewelry is incredibly fun and very detailed, and you can do that because this warp can set up in a really fine way, so you can get really detailed, kind of create interesting patterns and textures, and then create products like, you know, for example, I don't know, I'm not really a jewelry person, but you can create bracelets, or you could maybe create you know, necklaces, something that I would like to experiment with you. Something to mention about all these products is that along with the Oxford Frame Loom purchase, I'm starting a new membership, which is exciting. Because this loom is the only loom on the market, it means that I am the only person who can really teach you how to use it effectively. I know all the features, I know the design capabilities. So I'm launching a new membership that will teach people how to not only use the frame loom, but also to start thinking in ways of, okay, what project can I create? How do I do this? How do I learn how, you know, this more advanced weaving technique, not just on the Oxford Frame Loom, but just to understand how you create products and design with a frame loom. But this frame loom has all these features, so I said, okay, let's put 2 and 2 together. Let's do a membership where I can teach you how to do it, but then also teach you specifically about the Oxford Frame Loom. And that will be starting and launching in January, more on that later. But it will be free for the first 3 months for anyone who buys the Oxford Frame Loom, because you will be the people who will understand most, get the most out of this membership. So it's a free option along with it. so many other features of this loom. I could be on, you know, this live forever. And what I thought I would say is that the launch of the, or I call it the relaunch, because I've launched this product several times now, but with a new supplier who is reliable, and I'm getting like amazing quality. The finish is superb. Everything is sanded smooth. Everything fits squarely. Everything slots into place and moves as it should. So I'm relaunching it, hopefully sort of for the final time with this design. And this is on sale for the next 3 days. So for today you save 20%. Tomorrow it's 15%, and on Sunday it's 10%. So it's in your interest if you're, you know, want to find out more about the Oxford Frame Loom. Obviously you can check out all the videos that I've got on the YouTube channel. All of them are woven on the Oxford Frame Loom, with the exception of the first few, which were the baby, the original idea where I started with designing looms. So some of those early ones are not done on the Oxford Frame Loom, because I realized actually I needed something more complex to deal with the things that I wanted to teach. So there'll be more videos to follow on that. And again, if you decide you want to learn more about the Oxford Frame Loom, you can go to my website, which is oxfordweavingstudio.com. And you'll see, of course, there's loads of links for you to kind of click on to learn more about the frame loom. But it really is a comprehensive loom. I really do believe this. I'm a weaver. I was an engineering student way back when. I liked how products work. I've designed it. It's my design. If you see anything like this elsewhere, then somebody's copying me. It's what I think is going to be the best way to get you to discover your weaving style, because frame looms generally are great for tapestry weavers. But I want you to learn how to do more than that. I want you to push yourself and learn, and hopefully I'd love to be the one to teach you. So thanks for listening. A few of you stuck in right from the beginning to the end. Really appreciate it, and hope to see you here on YouTube again soon. Thanks. Have a great week.